From the Atlas Mountains of Morocco to the deserts of Libya, all of Roman North Africa was guarded and patrolled by a single legion, Legio Tertia Augusta, the Third Augustan Legion. For 200 years, the Third Legion was based at Lambaesis, Algeria. The remains of the Third Legion's camp were badly damaged in the mid-19th century when the French used its stone to build the prison that still covers part of the site. Portions of the camp, however, are still reasonably intact, and the whole ensemble has a claim to be the best preserved example of its type anywhere in the empire. The legionary forts of the 1st and 2nd centuries were self-contained towns, covering 50 or 60 acres, and featuring every facility needed to house, feed, and train 5,000 soldiers. In most respects, the fort at Lambaesis follows the standard plan, with the headquarters complex, the Principia, at the center, surrounded by neat blocks of barracks and service buildings. The most distinctive feature of the camp at Lambaesis is also the best preserved. This is the structure known as the groma, after the Roman surveying instrument. It marks the intersection of the camp's two primary roads, the Via Praetoria and the Via Principalis, and served as the monumental entrance of the Principia. Here, we're walking toward the groma on the Via Praetoria. The central arch admitted wheeled traffic. The side arches were for pedestrians. Originally, the structure was crowned by a pyramidal roof. You can hear the call to prayer in the town. The keystone of the main arch is carved with a figure of victory. The niches on either side originally held statues. Note the laurel wreath on the keystone of the side door. Stepping inside reveals the massive scale of the building. See if you can spot the stork nesting on top of the wall. As we exit by a side entrance on the Via Principalis side, you can see the standard of the Third Legion carved on the keystone. Now, we'll re-enter the groma and walk toward the south doors, which opened onto the courtyard of the Principia, the nerve center of the camp. These columns belonged to the portico that bounded the courtyard on three sides. Behind them were an array of offices and armories. Now we'll turn toward the center of the Principia. In most legionary forts, this would have been a large basilica, and eventually it was remodeled into one. Originally, however, the courtyard of the Principia faced an open area dominated by a tribunal, a platform from which officers could address the assembled troops. Today, unfortunately, almost nothing survives above foundation level. The low walls to our left belonged to meeting rooms used by associations of officers. Here in the center was the Ides Signorum, the chapel of the standards, where the emblems of the legion's units were displayed and revered. Beneath the chapel of the standards were the subterranean chambers that housed the legion's treasury. Behind the Principia, only one structure can be identified clearly, a large bath complex. Often, baths were left outside Roman forts to reduce the risk of fire. Here, however, they were within the walls, presumably for the benefit of the officers, who were their most distinguished customers. Most of what we see here belongs to the subterranean service level, but you can make out the basic layout of the heated rooms. Turning from the Principia, we confront a featureless plain dotted with chunks of masonry. The junior officers were housed here, near the Via Principalis, in substantial courtyard-centered houses. The enlisted men lived behind them in barracks, long and narrow structures in which 8 men shared 2 cramped rooms. The amphitheater was built a generation after the camp, during the reign of Marcus Aurelius. It had seats for between 10 and 12,000 spectators. Although its seats were quarried away by the French, the substructures are relatively intact.
Yeah, I pretty well have stopped advertising any tours of North Africa this summer.
What?
I pretty much stopped promoting any part of it.
Walking inside still provides a sense of the arena's impressive scale. And it's still possible to walk along the tunnel through which animals and scenery were brought to the arena. The people who joined me in the amphitheater were members of my tour of the Roman ruins of Algeria. If you'd like to accompany me on a trip to some of the most fascinating parts of the ancient world, check out the link on screen and in the description. Thanks for watching.